Hi, it's Edward, back with another video. Please take a moment to click the thumbs up button below and consider subscribing to the channel. Please also share this video via social media and with your friends via email. Thank you for your support. Today, I read several financial news articles. I've included links to the articles in the description below. I encourage you to read the articles to support the authors and news sources. As a private American citizen, I'd like to report and share my transformative thoughts through commentary regarding small sections of these articles that are of public interest. Will the economy crash in America? Well, a recession will hit in 2024, according to this source. Today, I read an article on Yahoo Finance put out by Business Insider entitled, "Recession Will Hit the U.S. in 2024, so get ready for massive interest rate cuts," UBS says. According to the author, the U.S. economy will slip into recession next year, and that'll lead to the Federal Reserve bringing in steep interest rate cuts, according to one top European bank. UBS said Tuesday that it's expecting the Fed to respond to falling inflation and an economic slump by slashing rates by an eye-popping 275 basis points. Nearly 4 times the 75 basis point reduction the market is currently expecting, per the CME Group's FedWatch tool. Here's my opinion. It's certainly possible the Fed will cut rates sharply if things get bumpy in the future. Who knows what those rate cuts might be, though? Cutting rates has been their standard playbook to follow. The Fed and elected politicians don't want a painful financial system reset where true price discovery prevails and free market forces take over. That probably wouldn't be a recession. That would probably be a full-blown depression. In my opinion, they should have let that happen back in 2008. Instead, the Fed blew a bigger bubble and kept interest rates low for far too long. During this period of cheap and easy money, a lot of zombie companies have been allowed to operate. Those with financial assets have flourished, while many everyday working Americans have had a harder time surviving. I read some comments beneath this article that I thought were very interesting, so I'm going to share some of them with you. There are a lot of differing opinions regarding this topic in the comments. One commenter writes, "Of course the Fed will cut rates and move toward QE. 2024 is an election year. In this era, the U.S. monetary policy is subservient to political objectives." Another commenter writes, "This is wishful thinking. The only way to get inflation down to 2% is by a recession. The Fed rate will stay high until we are actually in a recession. There aren't any clear signs that a recession is imminent. Until we are clearly in a recession, the Fed rate is going to stay where it is right now." This next commenter says, "I hope they don't do that because I've really been enjoying the thousands that I make monthly on interest." Well, I have to agree with this commenter. I've also enjoyed earning around 5.5% on my short duration U.S. Treasuries. Another commenter writes, "Massive interest rate cuts? Yeah, let's go right back to the formula that got us into this mess." Well, we are certainly in a mess, so this commenter's thoughts did resonate with me. The last comment that I'll share with you said a recession is the only real way to get prices back down. All they have done so far is slow inflation. After the damage is done, it takes deflation to fix this mess. What do you think about all this? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Earlier, I talked about zombie companies that have survived during this period of cheap and easy money. Well, I read an interesting article today that relates to this topic. The article was on zerohedge.com and written by Tyler Durden and was titled, "Lucid Lost $227,000 per car sold in Q3. Now, before I get into this article, yes, Tyler Durden was a name in the movie Fight Club. It is a pseudonym used on zerohedge.com. As someone with a research degree, I like to be as specific as possible when citing my sources when I create these videos. Therefore, I'm going to cite Tyler Durden regardless if that name is a pseudonym. According to the author, what do you get after a decade of negative real rates and unlimited QE as monetary policy? Losing $227,000 per vehicle as an acceptable business model for an automobile company. The California-based Lucid Motors offers 4 electric vehicle models priced between $74,900 and $249,000. and reported a third quarter net loss of $630.9 million, excluding overhead costs. This amounts to over $227,000 in losses per car sold. The author of the article goes on to say that Lucid is not alone. Rivian faced a loss of $33,000 per vehicle sold in the second quarter. Well, here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here are some examples of companies that have survived during this period of cheap and easy money. If we do enter a deep recession that is not bailed out by the Fed, do you think there will still be customers lining up to buy expensive electric vehicles from these companies? Do you think companies like this will still exist in such a scenario? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Electric vehicle manufacturers aren't the only organizations experiencing financial losses. Today I read an article on foxbusiness.com written by Michael Dorgan titled, U.S. Postal Service records whopping $6.5 billion net loss for 2023. According to the author, the Postal Service said operating revenue fell $321 million, or 0.4%, to $78.2 billion compared to the same period last year, as first-class mail fell to the lowest volume since 1968. The federal entity pointed to $2.6 billion in inflation costs and a decrease in mail volume for the significant losses. The 2023 fiscal year ended on September 30th. Ladies and gentlemen, what is happening here in America? It is sad to hear about the Postal Service struggling to this extent. We have had a postal service for over 2.5 centuries in our country, ever since Benjamin Franklin was appointed as the first Postmaster General. Here's something that you may not have known. The Post Office Act of 1792 made the Postal Service a permanent fixture of the federal government. The act included provisions to facilitate freedom of the press, the privacy of personal correspondence, and expand the nation's physical infrastructure, all vital to our nation's growth and prosperity. While they may be struggling today, I for one am glad that the U.S. Postal Service still exists. Do you know who else may be struggling right now? U.S. retailers. I read an article today on Yahoo Finance put out by CNN and written by Brian Mean titled, U.S. Retail Sales Fell in October for the First Time in 7 Months. According to the author, Americans cut their retail spending in October for the first time since March, with interest rates at a 22-year high. October's decline in retail spending is potentially an early sign of a slowing economy as U.S. consumers get squeezed by higher borrowing costs and they continue to rack up credit card debt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this may not be good news for retailers, but I am happy to hear about this. I think more everyday Americans need to cut back on their spending. Far too many people are playing a dangerous game with credit card debt, given the high levels of interest currently being charged by credit card companies. I think some consumers need to control their spending, take some time to build up an emergency fund, and take some time to pay down debts. Many everyday Americans need to get their financial affairs in order so they have more financial security in life. I know this isn't the American way. 70% of GDP here in America is from consumer spending, but I truly worry about many everyday Americans going deeper into debt in order to spend. I'm sure after the holiday season, we will still hear about blowout numbers from the retailers and how Americans still spent money in droves. It just makes me cringe to think about that. Do you have friends or family members who have already started their holiday shopping, even though they aren't in a financial position to be able to afford to do that? If so, tell me about it in the comments section below. Some retailers have more to worry about than just a drop in sales. Some have to deal with shrink. I read an article today on foxbusiness.com written by Daniela Genovese titled, Target Exec Warns Retail Shrink Remains Significant Headwind. For those of you who don't know what shrink is, this is a term for lost inventory. This could be stolen or damaged inventory, or something relating to an administrative error, or something that is unaccounted for. The author of this article references the Target CEO who said, while we're encouraged that this impact was smaller than expected and better than we faced earlier in the year, growth in shrink remains a significant financial headwind. The author goes on to say that the CEO of Target projected the company would take a more than $500 million hit in profits due to retail theft. Now, I realize that a lot of this may be due to organized crime, but I am sure that a lot of this is just everyday people who are struggling and can't afford to purchase something at the store, so they just steal it. There may be some who aren't struggling financially and they just feel entitled and will steal items because they aren't worried about the repercussions. My point is, I don't think all of this retail theft is due to criminal masterminds. If you've ever worked at a retail store, I'm sure you have experienced theft. And I'm sure some of that theft wasn't orchestrated by some great criminal mind like Lex Luthor from the Superman movies. If you've worked retail and experienced theft, let me know in the comment section below about who was stealing items from your store. On the topic of criminal behavior, I read an article today on foxbusiness.com written by Breck Dumas titled, "Uber Bolstering Safety Measures for Drivers Amid Carjacking Surge." According to the author of this article, Uber Technologies is expanding its safety measures to protect drivers amid a spike in carjackings across the country and a string of high-profile attacks. The author indicates that the move came after the FBI reported carjacking surged more than 8% last year nationwide, and crime stats from major cities indicate the problem is even worse in 2023. What is happening in our great country? Carjacking? Seriously? This article indicates that there were 870 carjackings just in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. How sad is that, ladies and gentlemen? You would think the politicians in Washington, D.C. would be doing everything possible to get these carjacking numbers to trend down and not up. Maybe they are working hard to do something about this behind the scenes. If they are, it may not be working fast enough based on the numbers being reported in this article. The story indicates that police arrested 3 boys, aged 12, 14, and 15, who allegedly assaulted and stole a car from a driver in Washington, D.C. Well, I'm not surprised that some young people are involved with carjackings. During my first semester of teaching, I had a young teenager who was 13 years old, and he was a very challenging student. I'm trying to be as polite about this as possible. He was missing from class for a number of days. I asked the principal about what happened to him. The principal told me that the student had stolen a car locally and then driven about 150 miles to another city where he was eventually arrested in the stolen vehicle. This was an eye-opening experience for me. I always wonder what happened to that young man. I hope he learned from his misdeeds and changed his behavior for the better. He never came back to class after that, which made my life as a teacher a lot easier for the rest of that semester. I, for one, am glad that I drive an old Toyota Camry. No one is going to get excited about joyriding around in my car, and no one is going to want to steal it for parts either. Maybe someone will want to carjack me for money, but I doubt it. Driving my old beater, I probably look like I work at the gas station and don't have any money to my name. I'm curious if any of you have ever been the victim of a carjacking. If so, tell me about it in the comment section below. Please keep in mind, nothing in this video is financial advice or advice of any kind. If you need advice, seek advice from a qualified professional in good standing who puts your interests first and foremost. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Please also consider sharing this video via social media or via email with your friends. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. I want to also thank all of my channel members. Check out some of the great books that I suggest you consider reading in the description below. I've included Amazon affiliate links to these books. As an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. Stay healthy and wealthy. I'll see everyone in the next video.